This is Kreskin, and of course you know me as the Amazing Kreskin. And certainly if we were to study the impact of television that it can have on people's unnatural and undesirable behavior, we can start with phenomena that recently has been seen on television. We have taught children something that none of us have ever seen when we were kids. We've taught them how to steal without the feeling of guilt or the crime of robbery. In my childhood, a severe walloping would have been the result of stealing. That is not the image we have today. We have not merely allowed people to steal, but the worst nightmare of all is we have vividly clear-cut videos of young people stealing items and walking out of stores with them without any recourse to being stopped or having the police called in for breaking the law. Truth of the matter is, you wonder if these incidents of robberies can be erased from the imagination of young people. Their imagination is very powerful, and the vivid sight of seeing people happy stealing and leaving successfully is something that can be impressed upon their minds for the rest of their lives. There is no way of erasing this. Now we come to the next factor in recent weeks or months, which shows how powerful stimuli can be. The imagination, stimulating the imagination, creating through suggestion in the unconscious and conscious mind, behavior that is almost uncontrollable. Recently, and you know this, we had the Peach scenario, beginning with the new Super Mario Brothers movie that came out. Jack Black, who praised the character Bowser, sings a song about Princess Peach in the movie. Since the movie came out, the response from all over the United States resulted in a massive sale of peaches. The sale was so great that people were invading stores because they were enamored by the spark of the song around peaches. People wanted to have peaches as part of their lives, and it became a major romance for a number of days, if not weeks. This again shows the power inherent in capturing the imagination and the power of suggestion, which again opens the door to actual irrational behavior. One thing needs to be realized: whether your message be patriotic, romantic, humorous, one way of seriously embracing is to have music as background to the message, as music is one of the great stimulants of the imagination, both consciously and unconsciously. Certainly the scenarios of stealing by young people and other ages gave no suggestion of the fear that is inherent and has been brought up to young people in the past. The fear of stealing and the background ramifications that taking something that someone else owns is against the law. No, that was not considered. Another factor, on a recent Rick and Morty episode, spaghetti has become a bizarre factor in the story. I love spaghetti. Spaghetti and meat sauce is my all-time favorite dish. And I've watched this particular story, which I did not particularly care for, although I love the work of Mork and Minnie. Eon Cardone and Harry Belden need to be congratulated for the brilliance that they've added to this series. Rick and Morty end up on another planet in this particular story. And it turns out that on that planet, when someone dies by suicide or accident or whatever the cause is, their insides turn to spaghetti and sauce. Nobody knows this, that buys or is eating the material and the membranes of human beings. The fact that it became the main issue, that particular half hour, shows an almost unbelievably effect on when we hear what came from the story, because I believe I even heard phrases, incidentally, when I watched the story of Jesus Christ, and I hope I regret it if I did. There is a church ceremony even in it, and the story with all kinds of sarcastic words at times in the background. And yet spaghetti is the main delicious dish of the story. There is the right to die in the story, and delicious tastes better if people died of suicide. If one is unhappy with life, one of the suggestions indirectly is to do away with one's life in this cartoon, and you remain and will become a delicious part of another person's appetite. At least that is the impression that is communicated. Also, turning into spaghetti could be a certain good for troubled life. That apparently is part of the message. You even have the half-hour people throwing up, which is disgusting. I found it to be the case, but it fits the message of getting across. Right and wrong doesn't seem to matter. Whether you kill yourself or you die is not the major issue. Rick and Morty are wild in their explanations. There's a phase about killing Diane that seems to come out more than once in the story. I even swear that I heard the word shit. I found very disturbing and unnatural and unnecessary problems when you incorporate this in a macabre setting of death and violence. That is very difficult to absorb as simply a light, frivolous experience. So it is not surprising that there was a drop in sales of spaghetti. Literally, that's right, a drop in sales of spaghetti and meat sauce in grocery stores, and even ordering such a dish at restaurants. It's hard to have one confronted with moving this whole experience and associating it with such a discomforting situation as death, and not going to be easily erased as time goes by, because it will not be easily erased. I would not be surprised, and I love the success of this series, but if this show, this specific one, becomes the memory that people recall when they bring up the series, the singular memory that will stand out through the years, deal with the one in which spaghetti becomes part of the death of violent life. I'm going to share with you the irony that we have in life, and I find this to be one of my most extraordinary experiences, one that I've ever had, in putting together my preparation for what's on my mind and this particular, what you're watching. In my reflections, as I've been asked, a number of newspaper articles have wondered if I would comment on what is causing the response, why people were turning away from spaghetti and so forth. And you can understand, because the impact and associating it with such discomforting phenomena, that this can happen very powerfully. 24 hours ago, I was invited next door by a couple to have dinner with them. I explained to them that I was developing a commentary on a great comedic adult series, and that they would probably find this intriguing. As I talked about this, the gentleman kept saying, "Kreskin, I'm thinking about something I've seen in a movie. I can't quite remember the name of the movie. Let me look at my check the internet and try to get the name of it for you." The movie he remembered was Soylent Green, starring Edward G. Robinson and Charlton Heston. Fabulous, great actors when I was a kid. The storyline was a densely overpopulated, starving New York City. That was the setting of the future. And the New York Police Department was called in on an investigation in the movie of a murder case of an executive who worked for a company who manufactured Soylent. It's called Soylent Corporation. With the help of an elderly gentleman played by Edward G. Robinson, the investigation that Heston is doing in the movie begins to make real significant sense as the governor mysteriously pulls the plug on the story, and they find out with the mystery that steps out from behind the badge and launches its own investigation. The murder is a gentleman running the company. He's the one murdered, running Soylent Green, which produces a real meal replacement. And what kind of meal? They find out in their investigation that Soylent Green is in fact dead human body material. That is the food. Now let me share with you the most surprising piece of all. This movie was released, are you ready? In the US in 1973. You heard me, 1973. A movie in which people are being introduced in their diet to dead people. Oh, and by the way, I plan in the future in demonstrations of my skills with the power of suggestion and my ability to use it to cause a group of volunteers to eat ice cream on the stage, take a bite out of that, or a unseasoned cracker. In each case, they will vividly be tasting spaghetti sauce. The taste of the ice cream or crackers each time they eat it during my demonstration will literally, you heard me, be that of spaghetti sauce. This is not some magic trick. This is the power of suggestion.